Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. You're right, I'm lazy. This is my first time posting. This happened 20 plus years ago. I worked for the family business repiping mobile homes. Because I wasn't married and didn't have kids, my buddy and I were the out-of-town crew. The only out-of-town crew. We traveled all over the state. A typical week would consist of 10 houses over 5 days. 2 a day, Monday, Friday. That was the requirement, 10 houses must be plumbed a week. No exceptions. We had a backlog of work. After my buddy got good, we could easily plumb 2 houses in 6 to 7 hours. The other crews typically took 10 hours for 2 houses. Since we were paid by the house, it didn't matter how fast or slow you were. So long as you did 10 houses a week. I've always hated working 5 days a week. So we decided each Monday morning to look at our work orders, and rearrange the schedule so we did 2 houses Monday, travel time getting to the first job, 3 on Tuesday and Wednesday, then 2 on Thursday. Leaving us all day Friday to sleep in, explore whatever town we were in, and enjoy a 3-day weekend. This went on for some time, until my girlfriend wanted to go out of town for a 3-day weekend. So, we finished Thursday, drive to the shop, dropped off my van, and left for the weekend. Friday afternoon I get a call. It's the boss. Boss, where are you? Me, New York. Boss, obviously confused, New York? What do you mean? Me, I mean I'm currently in New York City. What's up? Lots of confused questions and snarky answers back and forth. Boss, why did you cancel your Friday jobs? Is something wrong with your van? It's at the shop, so it must be running. Me, I didn't cancel any jobs. Boss, now more confused by how I did 10 jobs in 4 days than how I was in New York without their knowledge. How did you do 10 jobs in 4 days? I decided it would be easiest to tell them I've been doing this for a while. He's pissed. He's absolutely furious that I'd been claiming my per diem and hotel while not working Fridays. Sunday night turns into a lecture of how I should be doing more for the business. I remind them we're the only crew that goes out of town. He tells me from here on out, I'm doing 13 jobs a week. I ask if the other crews will be expected to do the same considering they all work locally. Nope, just me. So I plan the revenge. I tell my cousin to schedule our next week in the city furthest away. About a 5-hour drive. We were normally only scheduled 9 jobs for that city as the first day drive took up so much time. No need to remind anyone of that, the number is 13 this week. So we head out Monday. No changes. No tweaks. Just do what's scheduled. Obviously we can't do 2 on Monday, half our day was spent driving. It didn't help that we weren't exactly rushing. So around 4 we call the office and tell them to call the customer, we won't be able to get to them. The customer is furious, and ask when they'll get rescheduled. No idea. Not my problem. I'm not supposed to reschedule jobs anymore. Fast forward to Thursday. While finishing job number 10, we call the office and inform them we're out of material. No pipe, no fittings, no wholesale house to go to. Nothing. Please tell the boss to bring us more. I get a call from the boss. Boss, what happened? Me, the van can only hold 10 jobs worth of material. That's the way you set it up. Boss, can't you go to X and get more pipe? Me, that's 2 hours away each way. We'll have to cancel another job. Plus they charge double what we pay in town. Boss, why didn't you say you couldn't do 13 jobs? Me, I did. You said I was being lazy. Boss, I thought you meant you didn't want to do 13 jobs. Not that the truck couldn't hold enough material. Me, I didn't want to do 13. You set the trucks up. It's your truck. Boss, unhappily, I'll meet you at your first job at 7 a.m. Me, with a smile you can hear over the phone, "See you in the morning, boss." After spending the night loading a van, and leaving at 2 a.m. to bring me material, an exhausted boss drops of pipe and fittings at 7. Me, "Hey, do you want to help knock out the Monday job we cancelled, or do you want us to stay another night?" Hotel, per diameter. We went back to 10 jobs a week after that. TLDR, my company wants 10 jobs done in 5 days. We can do it in 4. Now they want more jobs done since we can physically do the work, while forgetting we can't physically carry enough material. Story 2. I 29F spoil a lot for my dad 58M and he doesn't know. This is a small petty revenge that is still ongoing and makes me smile at least once or twice a month. Let's go. My dad 58M is known to not think before he speaks and he also rarely care if he becomes an inconvenience for anyone. Since he got his diabetes diagnosis and his health declining a bit, he has been more of a homebody and watches more movies and TV shows. But he has been doing this thing for years before I started being petty. My dad doesn't have many people to talk to, so often he calls me. Info, we live around 4 hours away from each other, and he can talk for hours if I let him. I 29F love movies and TV shows, so much so I don't watch trailers and I avoid certain YouTube channels that talks about recent movies and shows so I don't get spoilers. My dad also knows this, but he doesn't care or talks too much and blurts it out when talking with me. He has spoiled a lot of movies and shows for me already, even if I could have a hunch about the movie or show and being right in the end, it sucks and one day I just had enough. I have been polite and asked him to stop, or be more thoughtful and maybe ask me if I have seen or where I'm in a show, but he blames his Latino brain and just tell me I'm being sensitive. I pay for different streaming services and my dad has profiles there so he can keep up. I know what movies he waits for or save to watch later on, the same goes for his shows. Things he always end up doing is either falling asleep during the time he has a movie/show on, or he calls me or my uncle down in Chile to talk. Here is where I come in and my dad still doesn't know. I go into his profile and goes to the recent show he watches or movie. I either play a full episode and later on choosing a later episode so when my dad clicks, that will be where he picks up and will be super confused. He has nagged to me about these services ruining his time and gets spoilers by them. Like the other day, he was so irritated about being on the last episode but knew he has half a season to watch. He complained to me and I told him, "Dad, you need to stop taking it personally and not be so sensitive about it all. You either fell asleep and got confused, or you have been on the phone with uncle and blurted out what you already have seen." To this he agreed. When it comes to movies, I either watch them myself and then remove it from his watch list, or he has been watching a bit of the movie so I skip to almost the end of the movie so he sees it and realizes he has missed a big chunk of the movie but now knows how it ends. I have been doing this for the past 2 years. Since he and I got in contact again 2015 he has ruined so much for me so I'm not slowing down and I'm waiting for the movies he loves that soon will be on streaming services. I don't feel bad about it at all. Story 3. Petty revenge on a petty homeowner. So, about 20 years ago, I worked for a lawn care company. My job was to apply fertilizer and weed killer. I had to drive all over and got to meet a lot of people. This guy sticks out. I was in a very nice neighborhood. The lawns were huge and required over an hour to get the job done. No big deal, that's what they pay me for. After putting down the fertilizer, I would go around and spot spray the weeds. While I did this, I would put out pesticide treatment flags. I'd put one in each corner of the lawn. I figured if I showed I got the corners, they would assume I got the middle too. The owner of this house was home. I could see him watching me through the windows. No big deal. He was a smaller dude. I am not. This becomes relevant later. Anyway, he watched me do the whole treatment. I put out my 4 flags, got in my truck and moved on, like I always did. When I got back to the shop, the secretary asked me about his lawn. Apparently he was upset because there were no flags in the middle. How could he be sure I did it all? He apparently screamed at the secretary about it. I was stunned. I assured her I did my job and she and my boss believed me. I even said he watched me do it. They asked why he wouldn't say anything to me. I said he looked small. Maybe he didn't want to confront me. I had played offensive line in college and looked the part. They laughed and said that was likely the case. But they said I should go back the next day and spot spray the weeds again, making sure to put out more flags. The flags came in bundles of 50. I put at least one bundle in my pocket, it might have been two. It's long enough ago where I can't remember, and got to work. About every 6 steps I put down a flag. He was going to know that I hit every inch of his yard. He watched me do this. By the time I was done, his lawn was practically white. When I got back to the shop that afternoon, my boss and the secretary were smirking. They told me he called again. I shrugged and said, well, he knows for sure I got his whole yard now, right? They burst out laughing and said, that's what we told him. If you have a problem with me, talk to me about it. If you would rather bully a 60-year-old lady over the phone, enjoy picking flags out of your yard all day. Story 4. Sure, I'll turn your guitar monitor up mute. Way back, I ran live sound as a fill-in when another engineer couldn't show up. I once worked a show at a bar/venue that was a converted automotive shop in Deep Ellum, Dallas. TLDR at the bottom, along with more info for the less musically inclined. If you know, you know. For those who don't, the stage and audience area is tiny, it fits 100 people. This is important information, this is not an arena, it is a glorified hole in the wall. Another thing to note is that my soundboard, and by extension, my hands controlling it, are hidden from everyone's view. Metal band begins setting up, both guitarists bring full stacks, that's 2 4x1 2 speaker cabinets and an amp head, about 6 tall each. Whatever, it's overkill even for an arena show, only one of those 8 speakers gets a microphone, but I guess they like to look cool and intimidating. Get to sound check and one guitarist has his settings dialed in appropriately, but the volume on the other is far too loud. I ask him politely to turn it down so that stage noise is not battling the front of house, speakers. After every song, he nudges up the volume. I tell him repeatedly through my talkback mic, on his monitor, to stop doing so. Eventually, not even halfway through their set, I'd had enough and just steadily turned down his guitar's level in the fa. About halfway through, he gives me the turn my guitar up in my monitor gesture. I reached down, muted his guitar in his monitor, it was already turned all the way down, just not muted, pretended to adjust some things, and signaled for him to test that. He does so, and seems quite pleased. Placebo achieved. I have never felt such joy fielding audience complaints when I got to explain that the reason their favorite band sounded like shit was because the guitarist thought he was at a stadium and that the audience was hearing his guitar through his cheap and badly EQ'd double stack, not the fa. Fuck around and find out. All he had to do was stop turning his amp up. TLDR, guitarist too loud, turned him off in the mains, placeboed him. Audience thinks they sound like shit only to discover that most bands do when they refuse to work with the audio engineer. Extra info, everything on the stage has a mic and stage noise is ideally kept to a minimum. For most gigs, even stadium shows, a 20W40W amp is more than sufficient, and sound better at lower volumes. A 200 plus W amp only sounds good loud. Bands that bring full stacks often don't understand that the audience is not supposed to hear their speaker cabinets, they're supposed to hear how I've mic'd the speaker cabinets. Your speaker cabinet sounds terrible outside of the room you've tuned it to, and it's my job to make you sound good in this room. You don't need 8 speakers, I'm only micing 1, 2 if you're particularly well known and your writer specifies it. If you don't work with me, you will sound like an amateur every single time. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.